How fitting is it that we meet today at the Peterson Automotive Museum to see a generation of vehicles. If you're like me, you're an aficionado of joy seeing these beautiful cars. But to see their transformation from what they were in the early 1900s to even today is just phenomenal. And that's what we're seeing across all of the industries which we work in as well. So, not to be funny, but this is all about automation and digital, and that's part of the reason why we're here today. Fundamentally, we cannot solve a problem by using the same kind of thinking we used to create the problem. That was Albert Einstein. And I think part of our challenge in this room is that we have been utilizing old methods, traditional methods, to solve problems that we're experiencing with our clients. And that's our challenge. How do we actually get an industry-focused solution? A solution that is going to drive revenue, that is going to be focused on the C-suite, not just on cost reduction. I look in this audience, and for the last 20 years, all we've been doing is focused on cost reduction. If you think that's not true, you're lying to me and you're lying to yourself, and we're all lying to each other. The opportunity today is focused on industry-specific solutions that will require us to change how we think about the problem. What I'm going to present to you today are industry-specific problems and how digital is attacking those problems. And digital is kind of an interesting word because I think we mix it up a bit. We mix up digital, we mix up transformation. To me, what we're really talking about here is how are we going to utilize technology to create a new opportunity for business. Today's industry problems will not be solved by managed services. What it will be solved by is the digital solutions that we have before us. So this is an important point that I'm making because, in fact, I was sitting in the car riding over here with Anish Chopra. He's the United States CTO. And he and I were talking about this subject, and he says to me, he says, Kevin, I just want to understand in your presentation, why are you focusing on these, what you call digital solutions or technology-driven solutions? And I said, because as policymakers focus us, whether it's H-1B or whether it's with specific incentives to hire people, our industry is focused today on how we not hire people and how we move to automation. So how is it that a group of all of us here that have focused the last 20 years on driving people to solve problems have to suddenly turn on a dime and focus on how we can drive automation to solve those same problems and, of course, new digital solutions? So that's the challenge in our industry. We are not experts at this. If you think you are, I know you're not. You know I'm not. We have a challenge. So, this is where Avasant has been focusing for the last several years. This is where we will continue to focus. I've watched, some of you have made great acquisitions over the last few years of technology companies that are going to help you buy vertical. I won't name you, but I know that that investment, I think, has been wonderful. We're watching, and we're partnering with you. So, let's talk about these problems on an industry-specific basis. So first with healthcare. Rising costs of healthcare, we've all experienced it. We're also experiencing an issue with patient care and the quality of patient care. Now, we can do the your mess for less thing. We can try to reduce cost, and that hopefully bridges the gap, but it won't be enough. This opportunity in digital is not about hosting or managing a new platform. The opportunity is investing in new technologies, wearables, design technology that is intended to replace your pacemaker with a smart pacemaker that's allowing you to be able to travel and move and not be in the hospital, right, where you're going to get sick. Remote monitor you, just like a server, and tell the hospital when you've got a problem so that you can be called in for treatment. We minimize the number of days that a patient is in the hospital, and what happens? We save money, and that's how you bring costs down. And that's not a managed services solution. That's a digital solution. That's an investment in a technology and an infrastructure that we already understand. It's just another device. And we've been managing them and writing software for them from the beginning. 94%, now if you don't believe me, we'll talk about the numbers, right? 94% of biotech companies are investing in digitally enabled wearables or patient care personalized systems. Now, that number actually blew me away. I was expecting something in the 70%, but they're already ahead of us, okay? Let's look at some more numbers. Billions will be saved annually through predictive spend analytics, and 35 billion of which is just by managing high-risk patients, 128 billion from optimizing healthcare delivery, and 192 billion from prevention of overtreatment. We're in the cost savings business. But this cost savings is not going to come from a traditional offering. It's going to come by our investment in technology, software, that is analytics, that's going to drive that. Let's talk about one more industry. By the way, all these industry leaders that I'm talking about today will be out in the atrium here at specific industry desks, and we encourage you to meet with them. These are Avasant industry leaders. We made a change last year. We didn't do as good a job as I wanted to turn to an industry focused. It's never quick enough for me, but we achieved it, and we will achieve it for this year, where our industry focus will characterize who this company is. Now, fintech. How many of you have some connection with fintech and fintech companies? Do you know what it is? Who knows what fintech is? This is the problem. This is the problem. Fintech is revolutionizing BFSI. And what it means is all these startups, from Bitcom to technology solutions that are driving trading and banking, they cost nothing to operate. And they are shaking the very framework and structure for financial services. And these very same companies are disrupting the traditional model, which are impacting your BFSI clients. Let's look at the numbers, if you don't believe. The rate of return of traditional financial services institutions will fall to less than 7.5%. Actually, it has fallen from 20%. Electronic transactions have been increasing to 75% of every financial transaction. That includes trading. How many of you have someone that is managing your portfolio, a broker? God, if you don't all raise your hand, then someone's not paying attention. Okay. Who uses a broker? I use Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, whatever. Someone's using somebody. How many of you have an automated broker? So not a real person, but someone that's conducting your trades for you. You don't know this, but that's already happening. You think you're talking to a person, but half of your portfolio, if not all of your portfolio, is being managed through automated trading that is happening continuously and constantly impacting my taxes with those short-term sales, right? They make a commission on every one of those. That was a joke. Just checking to see if you're awake. Established companies will lose 4.7 trillion of revenue to fintech startups. These are disruptive technology companies. If you don't believe it, it is real. 4.7 trillion. Talk about a savings and loan debacle or a credit crisis. From 2013 to 2015, venture capitalist investment in fintech has increased to $23.5 billion. Actually, it's much more than that. That's just what we can count at Avasant Research. 27% of which is specific consumer lending solutions, payments, and business lending is 16%. And by the way, if you think you aren't already using some of these fintech solutions, what do you think PayPal is, right? And there are more coming. Okay. So let's talk about transformation in high tech and telecom. How are we going to run all this smart stuff? Well, the problem is the speed of all this smart technology and the adoption is putting stress on our infrastructure, on your infrastructure. And all of our clients are demanding it, right? And in our own homes, we have a desire to make our home smart, buying technology that's going to keep us, give us the ability to manage our thermostats and everything else. We all know it. We all have it. It's putting a strain on the infrastructure. But there is another opportunity in digital. Now, so far, every one of these solutions that I've been talking about, if not solutions, market impacts that I'm talking about, are all not coming from managed services. Have you noticed that? They're all coming from some digital solution. And this is why we've had to turn our company on a dime. Of course, we can do that more easily than you can because we're a strategy firm. But look at the facts, okay? By 2020, 90% of companies will use cognitive technology. That's artificial intelligence. They're already doing it. They're analyzing big data and the like. Since 1996, broadband investments have been $1.4 trillion. $1.4 trillion. We have very quietly been investing in broadband. But if anybody told you that it was $1.4 trillion, you might say, I don't believe it. That's just the tip of the iceberg. $720 billion in just wireline on top of that. So we're building that infrastructure. So this is all very real. Between 2012 to 2020, we're expecting almost $40 billion to be spent on smart homes. And by the way, I think that number is also grossly under-exaggerated. It's just based on what we can project today in 2016. So again, what are we talking about? We're talking about an industry disrupted and what the market focus is. Let's talk about media and entertainment. We're at the nation's capital for media and entertainment, right? Not for long. Why? It doesn't matter where we produce media content anymore. Omnichannel solutions are absolutely impacting all traditional revenue models in the media and entertainment industry. My wife, who's the most technologically unsophisticated person I know on the planet, really discovered this last week that she can watch her favorite program on her iPad. I suddenly get these Verizon messages. You have hit your data limit. You have hit your data limit. I told her, I said, have you thought about turning on the Wi-Fi? She says, what do you mean? Now, if my wife and my parents, which are very well retired, are now taking advantage of media in this fashion, obviously everybody is. And it's not just that, right? It's not just that. What is the digital opportunity and how do we address it? Well, 79% of traditional cable users already have some type of streaming service that they subscribe to. Look at this. What is the average cost of producing content on an online platform versus a platform that is, a traditional platform? So film media is 1.5 million. You look at, and I apologize, I didn't switch the slide. There we go. TV media is about $100,000 a minute, and it's about $600 a minute to do it on YouTube. So maybe even less, free in some cases. So how do you think that this is impacting the amount of media content that's being created online? Now, Google has obviously figured out how to change this model, and they're generating ad revenue, and that's working out wonderfully for them. But this is impacting traditional media. So how do we address that with our media clients? If we're going to tell them, hey, we're going to help you outsource and renegotiate your outsourcing deals so you can save money, so you can survive for another year or two, I think that's the wrong answer. If we can help them understand what new revenue models they can create that are omni-channel focused, that are technology driven to drive more revenue for the business, I think we might be able to keep them around a little longer. So where is our future? Are we going to ride this outsourcing wave all the way down to the lowest common denominator? Or are we going to do something exciting about it? You're going to all get a gift today, by the way, from Avasant. And I don't know when it's going to be provided to you, maybe as you walk out. But they are virtual reality goggles. Don't forget to get those, okay? Because if you look at the data on what is happening in VR, and this is great, I'm going to actually read it here. The market size of handheld video games is dropping from 12 billion to 8.7 billion over the course of the next 5 years, and up to 2020, my apologies. And the virtual reality headsets are going from 37 million to 2.8 billion. Have any of you downloaded VR content on the App Store? Any of you? God, you guys got to get cool. Let me tell you, this is new for me. When my team brought this for me and they put those goggles on me and I realized I can download VR content to go visit places like China, India, other places in Africa because it's all on VR, it blew me away. Transformation in the public sector. How many of you are familiar with civic tech? God, somebody raised their hand. What is civic tech? Civic tech. We just performed a very large digital strategy project for the city of Los Angeles. We worked for Mayor Garcetti. And this was a civic tech project. Why do we care about civic tech? Civic tech is going to completely disrupt how the public sector operates. We are expecting 50% of all public sector employees to be gone. And we're talking about generating smart cities. Cities where most of the public works activities that you interact with as a citizen of your city will be performed seamlessly and in an automated fashion. How many of you have waited in line for the Department of Motor Vehicles? Wouldn't it be nice if that could be done in a more efficient way? So let's talk about that. Emergence of civic tech-focused enterprises is 22% per year, and over 6.4 billion projects of investment in projects just in this time period. So let me just ask a question. How many of you, as service providers and customers, are doing anything with civic tech in your companies? It's growing by 22% per year. This is what is change. This is the new service provider in the public sector, and this is something that we have to touch. Nearly 50% of all public sector jobs at risk by city in the United States. In New York City, they're replacing all the telephone booths with kiosks that can be used in the rain and in the snow and anywhere else that will give you all the information on local conventions, how to call the police, and how to get medical care, and how to take advantage of the convention services of the city. There is a growing investment in smart cities, and literally we are expecting hundreds of new smart cities in the course of the next 20 years. India itself has on target 80 new smart cities with a goal of over 100. Let's talk about retail. Retail is probably the most exciting area, and we're going to hear about it a little bit today, along with transportation and some of the other verticals from the guest speakers that we have lined up. Am I doing on time? Okay. So, in the retail space, it's all about new facial recognition technologies that are going to give us the total recall experience that we all dreamed of. Is it frightening? By God, it's frightening. You walk into a store, they recognize who you are, You get information beamed right to your phone, including coupons and information about your last purchase and whether you need another pair of black socks because the last time you bought them was 6 months ago and you've got holes in them now. That transformation, again, is a technology transformation. Are you helping your clients with that today? Are we still selling them a traditional managed service? I'm not here to tell you, let's stop managed services, because by God's sake, if we do that, we're out of business too, okay? We need to start thinking, though, about how to engage our clients. I know all of you are. This is not a lesson in 101. I'm here as your peer. We're all thinking about this together, and we're going to have to solve it together. It's going to mean new models for partnering. It's going to mean new models for working together, but they're not traditional ones. And again, when I talk about each one of these industries, it's only to point out that the ship has already sailed. They are already looking at these types of solutions, and if we don't make a change, then we will be at risk of survival. Let's talk about some more info here around retail. 95% of consumers shop both digital and physical stores. Now, I think that's pretty obvious, but it really hit me. It really hit me. And you're talking about a guy that spends most of his time reading about technology and all of you and what you're doing, meeting executives and whatnot. But I went to the Sports Authority. God, I hope it's no one's client. Went to the Sports Authority with my daughter who plays club volleyball. I don't know how many of you have children that play sports. This was a weekend dad duty activity. I walked in, and she says, Dad, I need knee pads. I need these latest shoes, that, we play with volleyball, and they're Asics, and they're really cool, and I want the pink ones. And she goes on and to get all her gear together. The shoes were $69.99, and I just did a quick check. I went to Amazon. I was in the store, $39. My daughter tried them on. She says, this is the shoe I want. I said, well, honey, if I can buy them for $39, do you mind getting them tomorrow? She said, no, that's great. So I did. Check out, right there. And then I started walking around the store feeling really bad. Very, very bad. I felt terrible, but this is the truth. And she picked up some jump ropes and some other training gear and whatnot. We tried on the knee pads. Same story. Click. Tried on some other things. Same story. Socks. Before I knew it, everything was going to be sent to the house tomorrow. And then I was walking out of the store with the jump rope in hand, and I did a checkout. And she says, Dad, why are you buying the jump rope here? I said, because I feel bad. So that's the reality, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. U.S. retail sales online will continue to grow by 57% by 2018, and the digital appeal, which we know consumers that use digital are 25% more likely to make purchases online than at the store. I think the interesting thing about this one is we know the stats. I think you all probably are very familiar with this information. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And how are we going to drive digital solutions to the marketplace that can help enhance those revenue numbers? Some of you that are working on e-commerce solutions are very close to this. And what I see happening is really a movement from traditional services and applications where we're supporting a heavy web application and e-commerce applications to more of a WordPress and other lighter platforms. Transformation in manufacturing, same thing. Are we talking about managed services? No. This is probably the only place where we really are talking about robotics. I'm getting a little bit tired about hearing about robotics. People don't know what robotics is, and I don't mean to, again, act like I'm the only one that knows. Automation is driven by software, right? We all agree on that. Robotics is driven by machines. And so when we talk about automation and robotics and use those terminologies interchangeably, it's not the same thing. Okay? But in this industry, absolutely, robotics are bringing manufacturing back to the United States. How many of you heard of nearshore? Not nearshore, nearshore. What we're doing here is we're talking about advising our clients on how they can bring that level of automation back to the United States. So these are all new terminologies, right? FinTech, all this new stuff. This is all new stuff, and it's replacing our current business. So as we bring that technology back to the United States, let's look at what that means. Smart manufacturing is impacting also 50% of manufacturing jobs. The market for 3D printing, of course, is completely changing us in terms of how we will be able to address the local supply chain. And what's the real driver for all this nearshoring, we call it? Nearshoring. This is something new, right? The driver is SLAs, believe it or not, and also lower supply chain costs. So if we're able to manufacture locally, as locally as someone's home through 3D printing, or down the street, we can bring supply chain and shipping and costs down. Even more so, SLAs are high because we're using automation to build, and we don't have to worry about human error. Okay? Again, problem solved. Let's talk about transformation in travel and transportation, one of my favorite subjects. And we're actually going to have a really great presentation later today. We have two presentations on transportation, and we chose this vertical because, of course, we're here at the Peterson Automotive Museum, and we're all talking about automation and movement, so that's the focus. So we have BNSF speaking and GTAA speaking. But let's talk about this industry because, again, it's all about the customer experience. The problem is security. The problem is cost. The problem is how do we implement new next-gen transportation technologies? Well, we've historically provided managed services solutions. That's not going to work. Not anymore. In a world where Hyperloop is disrupting traditional transportation with investments that are going to revolutionize the speed at which we can move people, where our vehicles will be driving us in an automated fashion, we have to think differently. Let's look at the numbers. And this is just a little small, so I'm going to have to pull them up here. 35% of us have some type of direct interaction online to do travel research. 24% of us are searching for promotions. 21% are doing hotel reservations online. Another 20% are doing ticket purchases online. Now, what happens when airports and train stations and train and rail companies start investing in this, which they are starting to? 95% are investing on interactive mobile apps, 86% on self-service technologies, 74% on assisted bag technologies, 52% on self-boarding technologies. Now, when all of this is integrated into the traveler experience, what we will get is this. Hello, welcome, Kevin Parikh, to LAX International Airport. Let me pull up my phone. Oh, I see you're traveling today at 5 p.m. out of gate 42A, American Airlines. This is the airport directing me. Looks like you're TSA pre-approved. You can go right to the line on the left. You have no luggage today, as we can see from your American Airlines application. We also see that you are an Admirals Club member, and there happens to be a club right next to your gate. And all of this information from various different sources coming to my phone, also directing me where to go. And by the way, your Starbucks coffee and your preferences will be delivered to you at your gate. How many of you have waited in the morning in a Southwest line for 30 minutes to get a cup of coffee? Right? Southwest is like that. There's tons of people in there. Now it gets delivered to your gate. So for an airport or for a train station, this is a way to provide a better service to its customers. It's exciting. It's happening now. Okay, utilities. This is a big one. Today, utilities are under significant pressure from solar and other technologies that are disrupting the basic, fundamental ratepayer model. Ratepayers make it work. Thank you. Ratepayers make it work. How do they make it work? They pay to keep our entire utility infrastructure working. But what happens when 1, 2, 15%, 20% of the ratepayers decide they're moving off the grid? These utilities still have to provide them with service, whether they buy it or not. And so the utilities have a real problem. They have to reduce cost, but they also have to be more innovative. They have to find ways for you to also consume less power so they can be more competitive with solar and other emerging technologies. 30% plan to launch new solutions like connected homes. 30% of all these stodgy utilities. 9% are also, when you think about smart metering and how it can reduce energy consumption, we're expecting about a 9% reduction. But that's going to continue to fall, right, as we get better technology in the home. 50% plan to move to the cloud and optimize assets, right? And believe it or not, they're moving more to OpEx, which historically utilities have wanted to keep a lot in CapEx, but they're moving to lower cost solutions that are actually going to benefit both. Once we rid ourselves of traditional thinking, we can get on with creating the future. And for each one of these industries that I've been talking about today, we have to shake it up. Our clients are already there, and they're expecting that from us. So I hope during this day you have some wonderful conversations. Our objective and goal, and what I'm challenging my team to do, is to help shake it up, be a little bit more client-oriented, bi-vertical, a lot more. Start understanding the solutions that you provide on a vertical basis so that we can help position those capabilities to our customers of tomorrow. So think differently. We are empowering beyond, and thank you.